The Maryland Terrapins, folks, are making noise because they're going after their hometown heroes. Now, when you look at some of the top demographics, when you look at some of the top areas to really go after recruits, you're looking at the aforementioned California, you're looking at Texas, you're looking at Florida. Like, we know the suspects where a lot of these talented places are and these talented markets are, where there's a high density of talent. Don't sleep on DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and specifically the M, specifically Maryland. Go dial up 24/7 Sports. Go dial up On3. Go dial up Rivals. And go to state rankings in the state of Maryland. Maryland produces really good high school talent. And the Maryland Terrapins, man, they are going after, and they are being fairly successful on the recruiting trail with this high-end talent in the state of Maryland. Just like you can't talk about Big Ten recruiting without talking about Oregon and USC, you can't talk about Maryland and the investment that they're putting into their home kids in their home state without talking about On3's number one overall recruit in the country, that being Zion Elee, a 6'4", 220-pound edge rusher. And folks, there were official visits scheduled to Auburn. I think some SEC schools, some Big Ten schools were in there as well. Hell, if you're the number one recruit in the country, yeah, you're going to have Big Ten schools after you. You're going to have SEC schools after you, most certainly. Zion Elee, couple of weeks ago, shut it down. Canceled those visits on his calendar. He will be a Terp. Gigantic, huge win for Mike Locksley and this Maryland football team to really seal him up at this time. He just ragdolls players around, man. His power, I think, is a little bit of underrated. I think when a lot of people speak to his film, they're going to look at that speed. They're going to look at that explosiveness. I talk about that extremely quick second burst. I think when you come off the line of scrimmage, and then when you're able to get that position, you're able to get that leverage against an offensive tackle. Then once you're able to kind of get into that second burst, he's able to really get there in a quick period of time. He gets to the backfield sometimes quicker than like a running back or the offense really should. That's how much faster and quicker and explosive that he looked on tape playing high school football in the Baltimore area over there. Just like when you look at some of the key positions on a football team, and I'm going to talk about the other local kid that they're going after here in just a little bit. The edge rusher, a pass rusher, that's as big of a position that you can hope for to have that high level of talent for Maryland. He's going to get on the football field, and he's going to be playing right away. He's going to be playing for the 2026 Maryland Terrapins. No doubt about that. Now, we talk about edge on one side, the position that the edge rushers are going up against, the offensive tackle. I think it's one of the most important positions on the football field. There is another Baltimore area kid, the number 2 offensive tackle in the country, a top 5 overall player in Immanuel Iheanacho, 6'5", 350 pounds, another Baltimore area kid, and he does a great job with keeping distance in pass protection situation. He's got the long arms, he's got the leverage, he's got everything you might look for of a future NFL offensive tackle. If they're able, now here's the thing about Immanuel right now, and this is kind of a very recent development. Immanuel has named his 2 leaders. Maryland is his leader right now, and the Oregon Ducks are number 2. Now, it is going to be hard to hold off the machine that is Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. There's no question about that. But if Maryland is able to land the number 1 overall, 2 top 5 players in the country coming to College Park, not going to Alabama, not going to Oregon, not going to Georgia, but coming to College Park, Maryland at 2 extremely key positions where they're going to start right away and make an impact right away. And I think that's part of the package. I think you got to think that Mike Locksley is selling. Not only can they remain hometown heroes and play for their hometown school, but they can play right away, get on the field, probably make more money, certainly right away in College Park, Maryland as well. Combine that, you got a quarterback in the 25 cycle that's going to be a true freshman this year in Malik Washington. out of the state of Maryland, out of that area certainly as well. He's got a big frame and a big body and a big arm. Will he start this year? I don't know. Maybe not at the beginning of the year. But these are good players. Here's the thing about Maryland. I don't think that they can do the USC. They don't have the brand power of a USC where, hey, let's draw a 70-mile circle around LA and let's recruit that and let's build a championship team. You've got Notre Dame coming into Maryland. Penn State has lived in Maryland for a long time when it comes to a recruiting standpoint. You've got SEC teams certainly coming up and in the state of Maryland and getting commitments from some of these top 5, top 10 players in the state. So I don't think Maryland's going to be able to say, hey, we're going to be able to get 6 to 7 of the top kids in the state of Maryland and in this area every single year. They just don't have, I think, the resources, the brand power to be able to do that, to be able to compete, and the success on the field, of course, to be able to compete with some of these other schools that are coming in there. But if Maryland can get like the top 2, maybe top 3 of 10, or maybe 3 of like the top 12 players, and they're high-level players every single year, all of a sudden you're going to start to see this roster build up a little bit. And Maryland's going to continue to get better and better and better, and they're going to be able to reach those heights that they haven't been able to reach. Before this year, it was that 6-6, it was that 7-5. That was really the ceiling of this program. You recruit more high-level players out of high school, out of this area, you're going to see your program develop a lot. Last thing that I want to touch on with Maryland right now is I'm very curious to see how the Maryland administration is going to handle this going into next season with Mike Locksley. They're coming off a 4-8 season. They had just one Big Ten win over USC this past season. Like, what if they go 4-8 again? What if they go 5-7 again? You have to balance what Mike Locksley and the staff is doing from a recruiting standpoint, bringing in this talent, but you also need to see results on the field. Will they be a little bit more patient to see the Malik Washingtons, the Zion Elees, and maybe the Immanuel Iheanachos get a little bit more experience and maybe bring more players with them? That's a balance that this Maryland administration certainly has to make in the future. But if you're a Terp fan, you are excited about the future for the old red and yellow and black of the Terps.